Welcome to the channel. Today we're covering how to get 1% better at every day because real estate school failed you. Real talk. Your pre-licensing course taught you how not to get sued. It taught you about ethics, contracts, and fair housing laws. But it didn't teach you what a house is actually worth. And this is exactly where most agents fail. You freeze at the listing appointment because you don't trust your own numbers. You sit across from a seller, terrified they'll ask you to justify your price, and you won't have a data-backed answer. You feel like you're guessing, and you're afraid the seller knows it too. But here's the truth. You do not need to be a valuation expert on day one. You do not need 20 years of experience to price a home correctly. You just need a system to get 1% better every single day. Success comes from systems, not luck. And today I'm breaking down the exact 5-minute daily drill that builds pricing authority. And by the end of this video, you will have a repeatable framework to price any home with confidence. You're going to move from hoping you're right to knowing you're right. Phase 1, the science, standardizing your data filters. Tip 1, stop overthinking the selection process. You get into the MLS and you pull 20 listings because you're afraid of missing something. But all you do is confuse yourself with the noise. You need a tight radius and recent data. That's it. This brings us to the 1% improvement habit. Every single morning before you open your email and let other people dictate your day, you're going to run this exact filter set from one random property in your market. It takes 5 minutes. It does not matter if you have a client for it or not. You are doing this for the reps. Step 1 in the 5-minute CMA setup. Open your MLS and for property type, select residential. For dwelling, select single family detached and never compare a condo to a house. The HOA, the fees, and ownership structure make them completely different assets. And for status, select active, pending, and closed. You need all three. Limit your search to the past 6 months, and in a shifting market, a sale from 8 months ago is useless. It might as well be from 10 years ago. Next, look at your radius. Set this to 0.5 miles. It's right, because neighborhoods change block by block. If you go out 1 mile, you might cross a major 4-lane highway, enter a different school zone, or hit a commercial district. Those factors drastically change the value. Stick to the subdivision. If you cannot find within a half mile, only then do you expand. But you must acknowledge that you are now in a different micro market. Step 2 is the size bracket. Filter your square footage to plus or minus 500 square feet of your subject property. This is negotiable. If your subject property is 2,000 square feet, your range is 1,500 to 2,500. Here's why this matters. If you go beyond this range, you skew your price per square foot data. A 1,000 square foot house will always sell for a higher price per square foot than a 3,000 square foot house. It is the law of diminishing returns. If you mix them, your valuation is ruined. Step 3 is the always by with the most recent first. A from yesterday is worth 10 times more than a from 5 months ago. Real estate is a momentum game. You need to see the most current data point first. Once you have that list, pick 3 to 5, which are your true peers. These are homes that actually look and feel like the subject property. If your subject is a ranch, do not pick a 2-story colonial just because it's the same size. They appeal to different buyers. Why does this matter? When you standardize your inputs, you remove the guesswork. You stop relying on gut feelings and start relying on data. When you do this every day, you start to see the market patterns clearly. You'll look at the list and immediately see that one house sold for $50,000 less than the others because you have the reps. You'll know to investigate that. Maybe it was a distress sale. Maybe it was a divorce. You won't be confused by it. You identify it and remove it. This daily repetition trains your brain to spot outliers instantly, which is the hallmark of a seasoned pro. Phase 2, the art, the investor filter and reverse engineering. Now that you have your data set, we move to the art of valuation. Tip number 2, price for the buyer, not just for features. Data gives you a logical range, but understanding buyer psychology determines the exact price. You need to know who is actually going to buy this house. This leads to my favorite secret CMA technique, the investor filter. Most agents completely ignore the sold terms in the MLS, but this is where the gold is hidden. In your search criteria, find sold terms and select cash. This allows you to isolate every property within your radius that was purchased by an investor or a cash buyer in the last 6 months. Why does this matter? It tells you immediately if the neighborhood is investor heavy or owner occupied. 6 out of the 10 sales with cash, you're likely dealing with the rental market or a wholesale area. You're looking for the cash transactions because it sets the baseline value for the area or the investor floor. Contrast this by running the same search or selecting conventional or FHA for your sold terms. These are your retail buyers. They're using bank money, which means they are subject to appraisals and inspections, but they're also driven by emotion. They're buying a lifestyle, not a profit and loss statement. When you compare the average price of the cash sales against the average price of conventional sales, you usually see a massive gap. That gap is the difference between a house that needs work and a house that's moved and ready. The distinction is critical. If you price a retail home at investor price, you lose your seller's equity. If you price an investor condition home at retail price, it rots on the market. I use this for reverse engineering to the buyer for your subject property. Ask yourself, is this property a cash flow rental or a forever home? If it's a rental, the math is cold. Investors do not care about the cute backsplash. They care about the cap rate and the return on investment. If it's a forever home, the buyer is emotional. They'll pay a premium for the school district, a specific street, or just a view. You must adjust your price based on who is actually writing the check. A house price for a landlord was on the market if you're trying to sell to a family and vice versa. Here is the confidence builder. When you know the investor floor, the price a flipper or a landlord would pay, and the retail ceiling, the price an emotional family would pay, you have a safety bracket. You can walk into a listing appointment and say, Mr. Seller, investors are paying $3,000 in this neighborhood, but end users are paying $350. Here's how we position your home to get to $350. You could defend your listing price against any objection because you understand the motivations of the market. You're not just guessing. You're interpreting behavior, and this is the difference between an order taker and a strategic advisor. The compound effect. This brings us to the final truth about valuation. Confidence is a muscle, and you build it through reps. You do not need to get confident by reading a textbook. You get confident by doing the work. Your homework is simple. Do one 5-minute CMA every single morning before you open your email. Do not let emergencies or administrative tasks steal your time. Pick a random address, run the filters, check for cash buyers, and determine a price range. Don't worry about being perfect. Focus on the process of filtering, sorting, and identifying the buyer. The goal of this drill is to speed and pattern recognition, not a 40-page report. Think about the compound effect. Over a month, that's 30 properties you have analyzed. Over a year, that's 365 valuations under your belt. That is more market knowledge than most agents accumulate in over a 5-year career. This is how you move from a nervous rookie who is scared to quote a price to an absolute authority in your market who knows the numbers better than the appraisers. You stop feeling like an imposter, and you'll stop looking at Zillow estimates and wondering if they're right, because you have your own data to back up your numbers. You'll walk into appointments with swagger because you have done the homework that nobody else is willing to do. If you want the exact checklist and the filters settings that I've discussed today so you can pin them to your wall, comment blueprint below and I'll send it over. Subscribe to my channel and start your reps today.